Sports Minutes with Raushan.
Money FM 89.3. It's time for Sports Minutes with me, Raushan. Well, the wait is finally over. And no, I'm not referring to the silence of Liverpool fans on social media, but rather Newcastle's 70-year wait for silverware after the Magpies beat the Reds 2-1 to secure the English League Cup. In a short while, we'll hear the Liverpool perspective, but it's only right we start with the jubilant Geordies, Sazali, Abdul, Aziz and Terrence, two lifelong Newcastle fans. Saz, Terrence, thanks for joining us. How have the celebrations been? Saz, we'll start with you.
We are a few hours into what I suspect will be a 70-year celebration on my end. Amazing. Just, I had a colleague in office earlier wearing a Newcastle cap. We high-five each other, hug. This is new to us. So amazing.
This is what football is all about. Terrence, has your voice recovered from the celebrations?
Unfortunately, no. Like Saz said, it's a very foreign and alien feeling to us. Like Saz, I think we probably grew up not knowing what it felt like to be a champion. Last night was whole new territory for us, and like Saz said, I was in the pub with UFC SG group watching the game, and I was hugging random Geordies that I've never met in my life up to that night. It was crazy, but it was good crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I already mentioned this is the power of football. Saz, coming to you, a case of Newcastle being very good or Liverpool being very bad?
Well, a bit of both, actually, I think, or a lot of both. I'll be honest, leading up to the final, I thought it would be a case of either we scrape our way to a dogged victory or Liverpool were going to beat us soundly. In the end, neither happened. We were well deserving of the win. And I think we completely smothered them. We outplayed them the same way we outplayed Arsenal in the second leg at home in the semi-final. So yeah, I mean the win is fantastic. The manner of the win just was a cherry on top of the cake.
There's so much to unpack in terms of not just the players but the manager. I'm going to zoom in on Eddie Howe first, and for that, Terrence, I have to ask you, this guy absolutely deserves his flowers because he took over the club when they were a relegation battling team, and now they have their hands on a trophy.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I might not have agreed fully with this statement before the events of last night, because I thought we were going to be nearly men, for the foreseeable future. But I think Eddie Howe's changed that, and for that, I think he deserves his plaudits, and I'm going to give it to him straight, considering I haven't exactly been the biggest fan of him leading up to last night.
I tell you what, plenty of eyes will be looking at Eddie Howe, and we're going to talk about that in a short while. But first, Saz, coming to you, we talked about Eddie Howe taking over this relegation team. This success hasn't happened overnight because new money does not equate to new success like Chelsea all those years ago. Newcastle have had to bid their time to build this team. But how proud are you of the team, which are essentially a sum of their parts?
Fantastically so. It's so frustrating. It's still frustrating to be a Newcastle fan. It has been for much of the last 20 years. I've been a supporter, but for different reasons. Now it's frustrating because we're the richest club in the world that cannot spend money because of financial fair play rules. But having said that, like Terrence said, Eddie Howe deserves his flowers. He's worked with the constraints. Sometimes I would say it's even more than constraints, being forced to sell players and so on. He's improved players, and we have become an outfit that, it's a cliche, but we can really beat any team on our day. We've seen it with results against PSG, Arsenal, like I mentioned, and obviously in the final, where we completely outplayed them. So we had more heart, we had more quality on the night. That's testament to Eddie Howe's coaching and management.
Absolutely. And Terrence, you talked about hugging random Geordies last night, right? One Geordie in that team is Dan Burn. He was on the score sheet as well. What a moment for a local lad to have that impact, especially in a cup final. Any other players that stood out for you apart from Dan Burn as well?
Dan Burn was an obvious one because of his goal. I think he celebrated getting called up to the England squad in style. Two other players caught my eye yesterday, actually. First one was Joe Linton. I think not a lot was said about him, but I think he bossed the middle of the park so much, and he covered so much ground. You could use that, Earth is made up of 25% land and 75% Joe Linton meme right here. I think he was truly underrated, and I think he deserves more praises than he's got last night. Another player that I thought who did very well was Kieran Trippier. For someone who may not be as quick as he used to be, He used a lot of his experience and tactical understanding to really get Newcastle across the line. So these two players really were other players besides Dan Burn who stood out for me last night.
A big game player, right? Terrence, Trippier. That's what we brought him to the club for, to bring his experience, to bring his big game mentality to push us on.
Exactly, and I think it was fitting that we gave him a championship medal now, because I think he's not really won a senior honor up to this point, and considering he's been a very, very good servant for us, I think that was just what he deserved.
And one thing doing its rounds on social media is a letter written by Dan Burn's dad to him before a cup final a couple of years ago, but it holds so true. I urge the listeners to go check it out if they have the time. Saz, we heard Terrence use the B word describing Joelinton, boss. I might use a different word because he brings that bite in midfield when bossing opponents' midfield around, right? He's not the only one who would have caught the eye. There's the likes of Isak, who's long been rumoured to catching the eye of other teams, right? Are you worried now that your team has won silverware? The players could decide it's time for me to move on?
No, actually, on the contrary, I think, if anything, it lifts, obviously the win lifts the collective weight off our shoulders, but also hopefully it will shut, some of the rumours down. I remember that in the January transfer window, it was infuriating to see Isak score in a game and then BBC tweet something like Arsenal-linked striker Alexander Isak.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
He is Newcastle striker Alexander Isak. And if anything, like I said, the performance of the team and the heart they showed that they want to be there and they want to win things with Newcastle, and hopefully they'll stay and they will.
And Terrence, coming to you, Eddie Howe is a man we spoke about earlier. Obviously, you said he deserves his flowers. There could be teams looking at Eddie Howe because of the success he's had at Newcastle. Are you worried?
Not really. I think he and Newcastle are a great fit, and he knows it too. He said that the one thing he wanted to do was to end the trophy drought for Newcastle. He did it. I think he will be excited by the prospect of what lies ahead, especially with PSR and FFP restrictions being in the clear for the next few transfer windows or so. Yeah, so he has an opportunity to build the Newcastle team in the way he wants now. He has a chance to build his own Newcastle legacy now. So in that sense, with the ability to build your own project from the ground up now, I don't see him leaving for any club. So I'm not worried about other clubs coming in for him.
All right, gentlemen, final question, because I don't want to hold you back from the celebrations. Does it even matter what happens for the rest of the season? Do you expect Newcastle to push on from here and secure Champions League qualification? Saz, we'll start with you.
Well, I hope so. And since we were not involved in continental competition this year, I hope the players can actually kick on. When we had Champions League last season, we had that awful run in December and January, and Dan Burn came out and said, this is all new to us, and the players are all shattered each week. I hope they are, in better shape for the final stretch of the season, and if we can kick on, use the momentum boost of the cup final win. Get a Champions League spot, get that revenue, get spending, take steps forward.
The sky's the limit, eh, Saz? Terrence, where do you stand? Where to from here?
On the other side of the spectrum, actually, while I would love to qualify for the Champions League one more time, but I would love to just go through the Europa Conference League, try and win it like what Chelsea might be doing right now, get another trophy under our belt and then build from there. I don't know whether we are ready for the Champions League yet. Our squad is a bit bare. There's quality there, but I don't think we have depth. So I would like a bit more time to build towards the Champions League. But Conference League and a chance to win another major trophy, why not?
Yeah, winning trophies are quite contagious. I can see Terrence already eyeing the next one. Sazali, Terrence, thank you so much for spending time with Sports Minutes. Enjoy the celebrations.
Right, cheers. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Raushan. Thanks.
Okay, we heard the Newcastle perspective, so it's only fair we hear the Liverpool perspective. And for that, Deborah Rowe joins us in the studio. She's the owner and founder of Talk of the Town, which is the PR company. I tell you what, your team is the Talk of the Town at the moment. She's a lifelong Liverpool fan. Deborah, how painful was it to watch your team lose the final to Newcastle, considering they were heavy favourites?
Yeah, I think definitely painful, but I think a better, term I would use is frustrated. I think just looking at the performance yesterday as well as during the Champions League over the two legs, I think we've seen sort of what Liverpool can deliver, and then I think just those performances were really not up to par. So I think it was really frustrating, and I think it's really across the 90 minutes, I think Newcastle really wanted it more. So I think that's just something that, just made it a bit more difficult.
We've seen this happen before, where the team is competing on four fronts and then they sort of fatigue catches up. Do you see the shades of that happening again?
Yeah, I think really that's how it looks like, I think, at the moment. I think the style of football is always this kind of heavy metal. That's how it's normally termed. I think you could really see, especially yesterday, midfield-wise especially, I think players were really fatigued. It just really wasn't up to previous sort of performances. So I think I can really see that happening across the two legs in the Champions League as well as yesterday especially. And thankfully, we have significant lead in the Premier League. If not, I'll be actually very, very worried for that as well, seeing as what has happened over the past few seasons under Jurgen.
No, absolutely. You talk about that significant lead in the Premier League. It's a 12-point lead with about 9 games to go. So surely with the Premier League more or less done and dusted in that sense, it must give you some form of solace.
Yeah, I think, to Liverpool Football Club, I think Premier League is always sort of the big one. So I think locking that in, I would say that's sort of a successful season for us. I think nobody really expected Liverpool to be where we are today, especially Arne Slot's first season. So I think we've really done pretty well considering, we're going to more or less, I hope, capture the Premier League title. And I think even in the Champions League, finishing top, it didn't quite work out in the end, but I think performances-wise, there's really a lot of improvement and there's a lot of success there for that first season under Slot.
You talk about possibly securing the Premier League, doing well in the Champions League. 3 players who've been a key part to that are Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? There's a possibility that all 3 of them leave at the end of the season. If Liverpool do go on to win the Premier League but lose those 3 key stalwarts, would you still consider it to be a successful season?
I think, yes, I would say so. I think across the years that I've supported Liverpool, I think ultimately it's the team, it's the club. That's most important. Players come and go. If they do leave, I think it's up to the club to rebuild and we kick on from there. Obviously, it's going to be painful. These are the players that have brought so much success and happiness to fans in recent times. But like I said, I think the team is number one. That's the most important for fans, for the city. We'll just crack on from there.
Deborah, you've been absolutely measured with all your opinions so far. For this final question, I just want you to take that measured answers away and talk to me as a fan, right? You must have received a lot of grief since Liverpool's loss last night. There are rival fans, myself included, who enjoy I'm going to couch it as banter, but that rivalry and it takes play in social media as well. This is your chance to address the haters and speak to them about why Liverpool are still the team to beat.
I think at the end of the day, we're still at the top of the league. We're looking down at everybody else. People, I think I've seen somewhere it's like sort of worst champions, that sort of thing. But I think if you look at it, basically, to Arsenal fans, just gonna dig, you guys bottled it. The likes of Chelsea, Cities, you're not even in the mix of it all, and don't even get me started on United, Tottenham. We can't even see you. You're closer to the bottom than the top. I think it's kind of just taking the wins. The big one being the Premier League, and you can hate all you want, but we're still walking away with the title.
Absolutely, I love that, and I think fighting talk is part of football rivalry in Singapore as well as the world as well. Deborah Rowe, thank you so much for spending time at Sports Minutes.
Thank you.
Sports Minutes on Money FM 89.3.